Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I wanted to come on YouTube specifically this morning to make this video because I did a share this morning on, well, across all of the platforms. I try to streamline what I'm doing because I'm one person trying to promote the book that I wrote, not only for sales, because I wouldn't be lying, although I make hardly any money on each book sale, but also just trying to increase the reach of my book, 365 Ways to Keep Going, because I believe that we are moving through a time of tremendous change and increasing disconnection and distrust with, AI mimicking real people and trying to look like real life and like they are authentic experiences. And, that's just not the case. And it's hard to trust right now on devices that we have been trusting so much, whether right or wrong, for so long. But anyway, I posted across all of the social medias and on Instagram and Facebook this particular post, which I was very excited about making, in particular because it was poignant at this time for one of my very best friends in the whole world who is moving through the same transition that I had to move through with my mom about a year after my dad passed. And she's in a similar space right now. And I felt like I really wanted to make a post that involved these images that I absolutely love that I captured in Amarillo, and the story about this solo road trip that I started on after, it was about a year after my dad had passed away. I moved my mom to Louisiana to be closer to more family. That's where we're from. I was born in New Orleans. And then leaving her, and that was chaotic. So it was hard. It was just made harder to even leave her there. I think I cried for an hour, the first hour of my drive back to Texas after leaving her in Louisiana. I was absolutely 30 minutes of a hard sob, an hour of just tears that would not stop falling because I was leaving her, even though I was leaving her with a larger community of family and people who could be there for her, because it had just been the two of us for so long. But I also needed to try to figure myself out again and who I was going to be other than holding my mom up, after moving through walking my dad and my mom through his cancer battle and then us losing him. And that was a very traumatic experience in itself. I mean, he died in our home unexpectedly, even though he had terminal cancer. So it was coming. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, but I wanted to share this specific passage and these images from the very first stop on this road trip that I took. So I dropped my mom off in Louisiana. I drive back to Texas, and in Louisiana, I discovered that my brake pads needed to be replaced. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm trying to go on this road trip. Like, what? So I went, and the guy was like, you could make it. They're not completely down. You've got 25% left. But so you can make it to California, but if you're making this road trip, you're going to have to replace them in California if you don't replace them before you go. And they're probably only going to be more expensive in California. So I was like, what do I do? At that point, I was so wrapped up in trying to get my mom settled as quickly as possible. We had movers that made it an absolute nightmare. Just so many things, like to where I almost couldn't leave. But then there were reasons that I needed to leave when I left. And then I was gonna have one day back at the house in Texas to pack my car and then leave the next morning. And then because I ended up deciding, you know what, this does not feel safe. I need to have my brake pads done. I had to add a day. So I lost a day. But it was just like, so right from go, obstacles started to show up. Like, should you really be taking this road trip? And I think one of my aunts even said, should you really be taking this road trip? And she's the one who actually told me, you need to do something so that you can go and do something for yourself. And then when it went the way it went, she was like, is this the right time or whatever? But I needed to go. So she's questioning it. I'm questioning it. I'm feeling guilty about my mom. I'm all the things. But I planned this solo road trip to reconnect with some old friends. And I knew if I was going to be starting over after 2.5 years, really more than that, because I moved in with my parents to help them kind of move through COVID and stay safe, as many people did. And I lost my job and my career kind of to COVID, and when the boutique closed in Austin. And it was just, I had been through a tremendous amount of all kinds of loss, including loss of self through that whole process. And I had to go, and I knew I wanted to take a trip on my own. So it was a solo road trip, although my dear friend Samantha went on part of it with me, and that was always meant to be, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. But so I knew I had to make this happen. So as hard as it was to leave my mom when I did in Louisiana, I had to do it. I for my sanity, for myself, for my well-being, for my soul, for my spirit. It was like I had to, when's the right time to start the process of trying to rediscover yourself after tremendous loss and change and challenge? It's like there is no right time. So you have to create the time. You have to make the time, and so I did. And again, obstacles from the very beginning. We leave. The first stop is Amarillo. I wanted to go to the Cadillac Ranch, or the Cadillac Graveyard. And so we drive, make it to Amarillo, to the Airbnb at about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. The AC is not working in the Airbnb, so I contact them. They try to tell me tips and tricks. They're like, the cleaning person didn't tell us that it wasn't cooling. I'm so sorry, we'll refund your money, bye. And I was like, okay, well, it's 9 o'clock at night and I have a dog, and now and I was on the outskirts of Amarillo. So now I've got to get to Amarillo to find a hotel where I can also have my dog. And the first two that I went to were full. And I was like, it's July or June in Amarillo. Like, why are hotels full? Like, what's going on? And they were like, it's just full. I'm like, I'm passing through, but is something going on here? What's the deal? Well, it's a destination and there's stuff to do there, and there's beautiful landscape there. So now I understand. But in my frustration, so I end up finding the third hotel, had a room. Clover and I, it's 10:30, just passed out. And the next morning, it rained like crazy that night. So I wake up the next morning and there's water on the floor of the hotel room. So the hotel room took in water during the night, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I just wanted to go to the Cadillac Graveyard and take some photos. I love to take photos. And it was the first thing on my list of things I wanted to do on this solo road trip. And so now I know my photos are gonna be not as good because it's gonna be muddy. I can't leave Clover at the hotel because now they're gonna have to come in and deal with the water in the room. It was just like one thing after another, And so I get to the Cadillac Graveyard and I'm just processing all of this. It's like instincts in my body are going, should you really still, should you be taking this trip right now? Should you be doing? And it was just like fear was so like just trying to get me to turn around or trying to stop me, And again, I've said this in a previous video, that when I went to Portugal, that's what fear does. It tries to keep you where you are, no matter how uncomfortable or miserable or just unhappy or confused or unfulfilled you are. You know, fear will try to keep you there because moving past it is uncomfortable and it's scary and it's messy and it's beautiful, and it's what reminds us that we're alive and we're still fighting for the life that we want, you know? So I get to the Cadillac graveyard and it's muddy and disgusting, and I've got Clover with me now, which I didn't expect. And I end up, you know, I take the photos, and as I'm looking at the photos after I take them, and there are just like thrown spray cans, because you can spray on them, you can tag the ground and tag the cars and all this stuff or whatever. And it was like there was trash. It was just not what I expected it to be, rain or not, you know. It was just like, wow, this is extremely like underwhelming a little bit. But worth the stops though still, because it's, I mean, it's a, what do you call it? Not a trademark, a pit stop for sure. Like, you know, don't not do it. But I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be more, you know, whatever. But so I'm taking these, I look at these pictures that I'm taking, and this clay, muddy water that's just surrounding it with people's footprints, because people didn't care. They were just walking in the mud to get the pictures of these cool Cadillacs that are just like nose first, you know, buried in the ground or whatever. And it was, and I stood there, and Clover was in between my feet, and I just started bawling. And I was just, because when I saw the picture of what I was seeing on the screen, it wasn't just a muddy day at the Cadillac Ranch. It felt like my life. It felt like exactly where I was in that moment. Like, of course it rained last night. Of course it's disgusting here. Of course it's not what I expected. Of course it's uncomfortable. Of course you ruined your shoes. Of course now you're gonna have to give Clover a bath. Like, I mean, just, it was so, I was just so overwhelmed how beautifully poignant the picture was. As messy as it was just all the things that were wrong with the photograph, of people just thrown spray cans, you know, like there are garbage bins for you to put them in, but people just threw them on the ground, you know. It was just like trash. And it was just, I saw myself in that space, and I just started crying and was just like, this is where I am, this is where I'm starting, and this is what I need to move through. And it was so poignant that I had made myself leave. I had given myself the safety of paying for the brake pad so that I at least could feel safe in the vehicle, because I was traveling thousands of miles by myself, you know. And I just was, I mean, I was just shook a little bit by how clearly it came to me that, like, it's gonna be ugly, rebuilding, refiguring things out. It's gonna be ugly, it's gonna be muddy, but it's also gonna be this beautiful snapshot. It's also gonna be, there will be beauty in what you're moving through. And I just thought of the lotus flower and koi fish and, you know, animals who do live in mud, and they grow and flourish in not the most beautiful atmospheres. And, you know, that's what change is. It's uncomfortable, and fear will try to stop you from moving forward. But you have to keep going. You have to make hard choices. You have to stay open to being uncomfortable and making friends with that. state of being so that you can move through it and be stronger on the other side. And I absolutely was stronger on the other side. And this, I didn't know I was going to start crying, but this day one of this solo trip that started with obstacles from shitty movers in Louisiana, brake pads, money, just all of it, you know what I mean? But I went and I knew I had to go, and I was taking the road trip back to Los Angeles because that was so pivotal. I knew that's where I needed to go because Los Angeles is where I went to college. It's the first place that I moved to for long term that was away from home. I made that move by myself. I did it. I didn't know anyone well, a couple of my friends drove there with me who were like family, but I didn't know anyone when I moved there. And there were plenty of people who were like, there's no way she's gonna move to California by herself. I mean, she's so close to her mom, and I mean, I had such a community, of friends and all of that. But I did. I made that move, and I knew that, and that's where I began to become the woman that I wanted to be. And that's where I started my spiritual journey and got my foundation and learned people who taught me things. And there will be more stories about some of that. But as I really wanted to share today about this story about this day at the Cadillac Ranch, and it wasn't seen on YouTube because it's not in the kind of format that YouTube is pushing, and YouTube definitely doesn't know what to do with me. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna make a video, and maybe I'll share it everywhere, because I think this shows what getting vulnerable to move through change and to heal on your own, because it takes a community and you lean into community, but the only person who can heal yourself is yourself. And I think that's why I want the book and the things that I drew from the journals, which were tools that helped me move through a hard time on my own. I feel like that's important, to be armed with tools that you can use in your own space, in your own time, in your own home, and whenever you need to. And those are individual tools, and that's kind of what is in the book. And that's just a beginning. I think there will be additional books. I feel like I'm only just beginning, and as a new writer, and sharing all of the warts and all, mistakes and all, hiccups and all. Like, I've made so many mistakes along the way and am so uncomfortable. Like, this whole making videos of myself, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm just, I've seen other Gen Xers kind of saying the same thing. Like, this is not who we are, like, we're not used to, we don't do this. We didn't grow up videoing our nights out and stuff, so this all feels weird and uncomfortable, but it's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's what I feel like I'm driven to be doing right now. And so I'm going to continue to share and try to share on multiple platforms in the way that it can get out there, and hopefully someone else will feel seen and feel like maybe they can find some new tools to help themselves move through change, whether it's loss and grief or divorce, kids leaving, change of jobs, moving cities, whatever it is, So it's all uncomfortable, but it's all beautiful and delicious, and it just means we're alive. So if you stayed for this whole video, thank you so much. I appreciate you very much. Sorry about the red nose and the cry face, but it's authentic.